Hi, my name is Adam Erickson, and I'm here with Tony Bartlett. We're here at the Theology and Peace Conference. Tony is one of the board members on Theology and Peace, and I thought I'd ask him a couple questions. Tony, what does mimetic theory mean to you?
Well, mimetic theory lies at the basis of all the work that we do in terms of the conference and communication with people. And the simplest way I can approach it is by telling a story of my daughter. And it really happened at the time I was actually first connecting with the work of Rene Girard. I was reading his work, and he's the thinker at the basis of this. And I was in a room reading the book by Rene Girard, and my daughter, who was at the time probably 4 years old, she was playing with a friend, and they were being watched by a childminder, a babysitter. And my daughter would choose the little tricycle to play on, and then immediately she chose that, her friend, whose name was Holly, said, "I want to play on that." And so then my daughter Susanna, who's actually a very good child because I brought her up to be good, she then moved on non-violently to the little scooter, and then when she got on the scooter, Holly said, "I want to play on that." And then Susie moves on to the little car and gets into the car and tries to trundle off, and her friend Holly says, "I want to play on that." And then Susie ends up back on the tricycle again. So this is this incredible scene whereby you could see how desire is mediated. We desire according to the other, we imitate the desires of other, and this is the basis of a huge amount of human activity and relationship, and it's actually at the basis also of our violence, because as Rene Girard points out, that if two people desire the same object and there's only one object, and they desire with the desire of the other, and the desire of the other empowers or fires up the desire of the first, then they're going to fight over that object. So it is a theory of the very specific character of human desire and human violence, and it lays at the root, or we believe it lays at the root of an enormous amount of human culture and civilization even.
That's an excellent example. What does theology and peace mean to you in this context?
Well, as Girard goes on in his theory, or his hypothesis as he calls it, because he thinks he presents it as a scientific hypothesis, not a theory. He says the evidence builds towards a scientific hypothesis, but as he goes on, he says the reason why we can see this more clearly today, and especially the victims that we create as a result of these crises of violence, these continual rolling crises of violence that erupt among human beings, is because the reason we see the victim at the root of that is because of the biblical scriptures. The Old Testament with the story of Exodus, the story of someone like Joseph, but then it's most of all, especially the story of Jesus, of course, because you don't have to look twice to see that this person is the supreme victim. And it changes the whole aspect of theology. If the death of Jesus is not to do with some kind of transaction or deal with God who's very upset with us and he needs compensation or satisfaction or substitution of some sort, but it's really actually shining the light of truth of what we actually do, who we actually are on us, then suddenly culture begins to wake up. And Girard's evidence is the prevalence of the victim motif and the idea of the victim in contemporary culture, and the power of the victim to raise his or her voice in our contemporary time.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tony.
Okay.
And thanks for all your work.
Well, thank you, and thank you, Adam.